Well, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, 8 New Advances in Cassette Ceilings, brought to you by Trelleborg Ceiling Solutions and Fluid Power World magazine. Just a couple of housekeeping details before we get started. You will see several boxes on your desktop, all of which can be moved and resized to your unique preferences. You may open, close, and change the layout as you like. You should ask all questions related to the webinar in the Q&A box that is initially in the bottom left corner. Answers will be asked during the remaining time. If we did not get to your answer, our presenters may reach out to you afterwards. The webinar slides, as well as additional resources, can be found in the resource box, initially in the bottom right side of your screen. We do encourage you to tweet with us. Simply sign in through the Twitter box, and today's hashtag is automatically added to your tweets. If you have any questions on the ON24 system or need help, please refer to the help widget on the bottom of your screen. My name is Paul Heaney, and I'm the editorial director for Fluid Power World. A little background on me. I have a mechanical engineering degree from Georgia Tech, and I've been covering the engineering and manufacturing worlds for more than 20 years. I'm pleased to be your moderator today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our presenter for being here today and to introduce him. Bill Bishop is Rotary Segment Manager for Trelleborg Ceiling Solutions. In his 35-year career, Bill's worked with every type of rotary seal imaginable. He says he's replaced seals on wind turbines 300 feet up in the air, as well as underwater on nuclear submarines. He's worked in various areas, including engineering, sales, quality, marketing, manufacturing, and R&D. So very well-rounded career. Bill is currently responsible for Trelleborg's Rotary Center of Excellence, which is a virtual department made up of the top rotary experts within the company. Bill also led the team that designed and tested the company's Cassette Seal CSL1500. And now, without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Bill. Bill.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and I appreciate your giving me 50 years of experience, but I've only got 35.
All right, well, we got 15 years more to go, then we'll try it again.
I appreciate it. Let me start out by telling you a little bit more about who Trelleborg is, who Bill Bishop is, and why you should listen to me tell you a story about cassette seals. Trelleborg Ceiling Solutions was founded in 1952 and has their history in a number of independent seal companies which produced elastomer seals. Forsheda, Dowdy, Busak, and Shamban were some of those companies, and they, along with a number of others, all came together under the Trelleborg umbrella in the early 2000s. Today, Trelleborg Ceiling Solutions is a leading global supplier of polymer-based sealing solutions used in industrial, vehicle, and aerospace environments. We make all types of seals, anything that seals, damps, or protects, we like to say, in a variety of materials, including rubber, PTFE, and engineered plastics. With more than 25 manufacturing facilities, 8 R&D centers, and 54 marketing companies, we work to deliver the high-quality solutions anywhere in the world. We're a one-stop shop. We offer the broadest portfolios of products and materials on the market, whether it's standard products or custom solutions. Now, I came from the Forsheda side of the business. I started as an engineer at Forsheda in 1979. And in my years at Forsheda and subsequently Trelleborg, I've worked in engineering, manufacturing, quality, sales, marketing, as Paul mentioned. I guess people just can't stand to have me around for too long. I'm currently part of Trelleborg Ceiling Solutions Research and Development Department. I'm product manager for our rotary seals, and I head up our Rotary Center of Excellence, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Forsheda was one of the pioneers in the cassette seal market. In the 1970s, they developed one of the original cassette seals. It was called the Denso seal, but it was subsequently renamed the System 500. It was originally designed for Class C trucks, but within a decade, they were used by most of the big truck manufacturers in Europe, including Volvo, Scania, and DAF. And from there, they branched into a number of different markets, including agricultural, construction, military, and automotive. And here are some of the many designs that we've done over the years. These are the legacy seals for which Trelleborg is known around the world. They're what we would consider our standard cassette designs. First two are for rotating outer diameters like most tractor hubs, but the one on the right is for a rotating shaft like a semi-truck. Now, perhaps not everybody listening knows what I mean by a cassette seal, so I'm going to explain a little bit. Let's say you're a designer and you're designing a seal package for a tractor axle. You're going to need to design an oil seal to keep the lubricating oil in the hub. Oh, and you're also going to need a seal to keep out those nasty contaminants like dirt and mud and water. If it's a really critical application, you may want to include two dirt seals, but you got to make sure you put grease in between them. You'll also need finely finished surfaces for all those seals to run on. And you have to be sure that you've designed in enough room for all of those components. Maybe seal design isn't as easy as you first thought. But what if you could eliminate the headaches and get all of those components in a single part? That would be value added, wouldn't it? Well, that's what a cassette seal does. Also called a unitized seal, a cassette seal brings all of those components together in a single unit. And instead of 7 parts, now you only need 1. So why would you use a cassette seal? Well, there are a number of reasons. A rough shaft finish will cause a seal to wear out quickly, so the shaft has to be finished and or treated in the seal area, and this can get pretty costly. But the sealing lift of a cassette seal doesn't ride on the shaft, it rides on a portion of the cassette seal itself. So no expensive finishing or treatment is necessary. Rotary seals that ride on the shaft can also wear a groove in the shaft under where the seal lip rides. This is especially true in contaminated environments where dirt builds up around the seal, acts like a lapping compound, and just wears right into the shaft. And once that shaft is grooved in that way, the seal will begin to leak. Now, if you replace the seal, that won't help, because it's the shaft that's damaged, not the seal. And replacing or remachining the shaft could be very expensive, or in some cases impossible. But in a cassette seal, the sealing lip rides on part of the cassette seal itself, so that type of shaft grooving is eliminated. And when the seal is replaced, the seal surface is replaced at the same time, so it's renewed. Now, if multiple seals are used in one application, it's usually recommended you put grease in between those seals to prevent any of them from running dry. And this means extra expense and assembly time. But cassette seals typically have the grease already inside, so that's not a concern. One of the major causes of seal failure is damage during assembly. This happens a lot. Any nick or cut on the seal lip and the seal will leak right from the beginning, leading to failure and warranty issues, and that can get expensive. But the seal lips on a cassette seal are typically internal, and they're protected by the cassette outer parts, so they can't be damaged in handling or on assembly. Many applications call for multiple seals to be used, especially if you're sealing two things such as oil in and dirt out. And every seal adds expense, takes up space, and means one more step in the assembly process and one more part you have to inventory. But a cassette seal has all the components in one single package, so there's fewer components to design in, fewer parts to inventory, and fewer parts to assemble. Now, what about the CSL1500? Isn't this webinar supposed to be about that? Well, yeah, let me give you the background on that one. About 5 years ago, Trelleborg's Rotary Center of Excellence was tasked with designing a new cassette seal for the agricultural market that would perform as well or better than the current offerings, but was less expensive to produce and sell, yet still maintained a high level of quality that Trelleborg was known for. We knew we couldn't just do what we'd done before, which was basically looking at what we had and then tweaking it until we had got something that worked. No, we had to start from a blank slate and optimize each aspect of the seal design and manufacturing process. We took nothing for granted, and in doing so, we learned a lot about our perceptions and prejudices about what a seal could or couldn't do. For example, when I was an engineer, I was told that a sprung lip should never be rotated because the centrifugal force would act on the spring, and that would affect the sealing function. But we found that with the right design and under the right conditions, this wasn't a problem. This allowed us to design a sprung contaminated lip, which increased the efficiency of the cassette seal and extended seal life. Also, conventional thinking was that an oil seal lip had to be run on a machine surface. So even in a cassette seal, you had to machine the parts where the seal lips ran. But we found that if the metals were made well and they were treated in a special way, that no machining was necessary. And this saved steps and eliminated an expensive manufacturing process. Also, in a cassette seal, we needed to have internal spacers so that when the cassette seal was pushed into place, those spacers would keep it from collapsing on assembly. But the classic design of those type of spacers would have generated too much friction during operation. So we analyzed those spacers themselves. We redesigned the geometry of them, and we changed the surface to reduce the contact during operation, which allowed the seal to run cooler and last much longer. We learned a lot of things when we developed the seal, and we cataloged each one of them and put it in our toolbox for future use. And that's how the CSL1500 was born. Now we're going to have a little video which will step through the advantages of the CSL1500. That's a combine, and this is what the hub from that combine would look like. Now we'll cut away part of the CSL1500 so you can see what's happening inside. This seal has air on one side, oil on the other, keeping dirt out and lube in. Now the metal rubber OD gives a positive static seal, but it still allows dissipation of heat from the contaminant lip to keep the seal running cooler. We've designed the metal cans in such a way that no crimp is needed to keep them together, and this meant less expensive manufacturing. The oil-facing lip is open to the oil, which allows a cooling flush of oil during operation and keeps the seal running cool. While the oil seal lip is based on Trelleborg's world-class design standards, which have been superior in their oil sealing capability. We've developed a bonding method that gives a fine enough finish that the riding surfaces don't need grinding. And the stack design allows us room to put more into the package and add components and a much larger volume of grease in between the seals. The step in the outside metal can adds stability to prevent deformation during assembly, and the axial lip serves as the first line of defense against contamination. Those are 8 departures from the conventional thinking with regard to cassette seals that we developed over the period of time that we were working on the CSL1500. A lot of those things were things that had never been done before. We felt we had a pretty good design, but just how well would it work? First, we put it through an accelerated test in hot oil, and it passed with flying colors. Then we ran it in the toughest lab test we had, a 24/7 constant running test in a slurry of mud, water, and sand. We ran it for 1,500 hours without leakage. Then we ran it for 3,200 hours without. And finally, we let it run for over 5,000 hours with no measurable leakage. This is longer than any of our other cassettes had ever gone. But no lab test can truly duplicate field conditions, so we sent the CSL1500 out into the field on an agricultural wheel hub. And after 2 years of continuous service in the field, we finally called it a success. And the hard work for the Rotary Center of Excellence has paid off. Okay, but what about the Rotary Center of Excellence? What exactly is that? Well, it's a constantly changing group of seal experts within Trelleborg, which is not limited by geography, department, or job title. Its mission is to grow Trelleborg's business through education of our people and customers, increase our knowledge base, and develop our Rotary projects and products. It's a virtual department. Now, what do I mean by a virtual department? Well, it has no physical location. It only has 2 permanent members, myself and my European counterpart. And all other members rotate in and out of the group as needed, depending upon the projects that we're working on. Members may come from marketing, manufacturing, engineering, or many other areas of the company, or even outside the company. And each one brings their unique talent and perspective to develop the Rotary solution. Once the solution is reached, that team's dissolved, and a different one is formed to take on a new challenge. And that's how the CSL1500 was developed. And we've used that same system on a number of other Rotary projects. Every time we do, we learn something new, and we catalog that knowledge for later use. We call that our toolbox philosophy. I talked about how we considered all the individual aspects of the CSL1500 design during its development. And now we know how each one of those components works and how to combine them in a modular way. When we need a new seal, we can go to our toolbox and we can take only those components necessary to fit that particular application. We've used this philosophy to design dozens of cassette seals tailored to particular customers and particular applications. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, when we first developed the CSL1500, we were targeting severe environments like agricultural and construction equipment. But one day, one of our salespeople asked us if we could make one small enough to be put into a centrifugal pump. Why would you want to put a dirt seal in a centrifugal pump? Well, it seems that one of their customers was using an oil seal, which was grooving the shaft, despite a fine finish and even chroming in the shaft. We designed a cassette using our toolbox, and it worked perfect. Since the seal didn't ride on the shaft, it couldn't groove the shaft, it couldn't damage the expensive chroming. So they were able to eliminate that chroming altogether and eliminate finally finishing the shaft. And despite the fact that our seal costs many times what the previous seal had cost, it saved the customer many times the difference by eliminating the need for special treatment of the shaft and the expensive chroming. We've subsequently designed cassettes for automotive, machine tool, and other applications as well. We've squeezed the basic CSL design down to as small as just over an inch, and we've stretched it to as large as 13 inches. And we've been able to turn around designs much faster because we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Look at some of these examples, and you'll see a similarity in many of the component parts that make up each one of these cassettes, and that's our toolbox philosophy in action. To get the full story on the CSL1500 or any of our other seals, check out Trelleborg Sealing Solutions in the Groove magazine archive, where you'll find an article on it, as well as many of the other seals that we produce. Here's a link here, and that link is also going to be available at the resources. The CSL1500 is just one of the many rotary seals that we produce. And if you'd like to learn more about any of our products, go to our website, which is www.css.trelleborg.com. Or you can call 260-749-9631 for our North American headquarters. And please, come out and visit us at the IFPE ConAg show that's going to be taking place in March. We'll be in booth S81616. We'll be featuring the CSL1500 as well as a number of our other products and services. And we'll also be showcasing our ServicePLUS program, a total solution program that can simplify the workflow in every part of your value chain, from engineering to manufacturing to procurement to aftermarket. It's also a toolbox of enhanced services to match our customers' needs at every step of the business process, ultimately reducing total cost and throughput time. If you are coming to the show and you'd like to schedule a time to sit down and talk about the CSL1500 or any of our other products or services, contact me at bill.bishop@trelleborg.com, and I'll be happy to arrange a meeting with me or whichever one of our colleagues would be best able to help you. Everything that we do builds on a collaboration with and an understanding of our customers' business and their markets. This drives our strategy and how we make it easier for our customers to do business with us. Well, Paul, that's it for me. Do we have some questions?
We do. Thank you so much, Bill. All right, for all our listeners, we're going to use the remaining time for questions. We have a few that have come in, but it is not too late to send in your question. If you have a question, please use the dialog box that you see there on the screen. First question, Bill. Can you talk a little bit about what different materials are available?
Yes, these are the CSL1500, and most of the cassettes that we do are available in standard elastomer materials such as NBR or nitrile, FKM, HNBR, etc. We haven't done too much cassette designs in the PTFE or engineered plastics, but that's on our radar screen.
Makes sense. So is there a standard line of these seals?
No, there's not. And we found that the reason for that is that so many of these are unique in where they are used. Unlike oil seals, which have standard envelopes that they fit into, these cassette seals could be used on tractor axles, they could be used on pumps, they could be used on tunnel boring equipment, they could be used on so many different things that we have to approach each one on an individual basis. And that's why it's so important for us to have a modular type of toolbox approach, because we never know going into it what we're going to be up against as far as the application or the envelope that we're presented with.
That makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about what other types of seals Trelleborg makes in addition to the cassette seals?
Sure. Trelleborg makes a full line of rotary, reciprocating, and static seals. We do all different types of rotary seals, including radial oil seals, cassettes. We do PTFE seals. We do dual cone or mechanical face type seals. Those are some of our rotary seals, and that's my specialty. But we also get involved in all different types of static seals, from O-rings to gaskets to huge gaskets that might be on part of a fuselage body on an aircraft, where the gasket itself would be 10 feet long. I personally have fit some rotary seals that are up to 16 feet long. That went on a turret for a destroyer for the U.S. Navy. We also do all manner of reciprocating seals, including U-cups, slipper seals, and a variety of other types of reciprocating products.
All right, thank you. One last question that's come in. Can you talk a little about the pressure that these seals operate at? What are the different ranges?
The CSL1500, as it's designed, was made to seal very little pressure, because in a tractor axle, you just don't have that much pressure. Most of the cassettes that we've designed have been for low or zero pressure. We can design them for higher pressure, but we'd have to make sure that we beefed up the oil seal lip and minimized the other lips, because when you have pressure involved, you end up generating higher friction because of that. We do that all the time, designing seals for higher pressure. So we know what we're doing, and if we had a cassette application come up that had to see the higher pressure, we could do it. But so far, we haven't had that issue.
All right. Well, Bill, it looks like you have completely educated us all, because that's all the questions we have so far. Now, to the listeners, if you have additional questions that come to mind over the next day or two, you are welcome to email those to me directly at theaney@wtwhmedia.com, and I will forward them on to Bill. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar from Fluid Power World and from our sponsor, Trelleborg Sealing Solutions. Now, this presentation will be emailed to everyone in the coming days, and it will also be available eventually at www.fluidpowerworld.com. Thank you once again, Bill, for all of your insights. We appreciate you being here.
And Paul, I'd like to thank you and also Fluid Power World for hosting me today.
All right, thank you, Bill. And to all of our viewers, thank you for coming, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.